Hello everybody and welcome to my 1930s garden. So I'm experimenting a little bit with turning the sound off, keeping the sound on, showing it at normal time, fast forwarded times, or just to have to see how it goes. So this archway we had put in during lockdown. I decided that I wanted to change the layout of my garden and I didn't want to see all my working area. So we decided to have this put right across the whole width of the garden with an archway into the working part of the garden. Then I'm growing a few things up the archway. So I've got passiflora and also I've got a rose bush, but the rose bush is really quite small. So here you can see passiflora grows really quickly once it's established. So what I'm doing here is all the ends and the little bits that are growing, I'm just tucking them round so they continue growing around the arch, not growing out to one side, because the more they grow out to one side, the harder it is then to tuck them in. And I want the flowers to show all the way around the archway, so that's why I'm tucking that in. Also, I want to try and grow things to cover part of that, like a bit of a screen, so you can't see through it quite so much. So that's the plan. And passiflora, I think maybe it might lose its leaves in really extremely cold temperatures, but certainly mine for the last couple of years have not lost their leaves. So it is a good plant to use that can grow and fill in a gap quite quickly once it's established. On the left hand side I've also got a honeysuckle growing. Now this was quite established when I got it and brought it to my house, but it's taken a couple of years just to kind of bed in and become happy. So I had a couple of flowers last year. I'm hoping for a lot more flowers this year. So here you can see where I'm just tucking some of the other pieces in. It was quite windy yesterday, but it was quite warm. I started off wearing a jumper and jeggings and it got really warm, so I had to go in and change. You can see it is really quite windy, and possibly as I'm doing this voiceover you might hear my next door neighbours cutting the grass, so you might also hear that. Now I have got the two sections in my grass that I'm not cutting at the moment. Now many people might be doing No Mow May. I think that's more of a UK initiative as opposed to worldwide. This is when you don't cut the grass for the month of May at all. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, because in many people's gardens that gives wildlife and nature and insects a chance to thrive, and then come the 1st of June they cut it all. So we now are already in June and I'm going to leave mine. I'm going to leave my long grasses and just see what else comes through, what other wild flowers might come through. I was also quite pleased to see that some plants that I grew last year that I put in my borders have actually self-seeded into the grass and they're now growing up into the grass. So I was pleased to see that. So I do like that whole section that I'm in at the moment to be my wildlife area, and here I'm just weeding my pots. So I've got a tree at the front there, just a small tree on the right, then I've got a plum tree on the left. I've got two variegated fatsias which seem to be quite happy at the moment. I know they can sometimes be a little bit temperamental, but they seem quite happy. I've got an artichoke, which is those lovely unusual sort of silvery leaves. They're really nice. Of course you can eat the fruit of the artichoke, and I've also got some Jerusalem artichokes there, and that's in the pot on the front, the one on the right. I've got the big massive great leaves, that plant, that's in the family of the Gunnera, which I really love, and it just seems to love being in this spot. So bearing in mind it's quite shady, that's really thriving. But my laurel is very happy, and it's showing its happiness by going a bit crazy with its growing. So I was cutting back the laurel so it doesn't overtake my plants. It's also got a bit tall, so I probably at some point just need to get the ladder out and just cut some of the taller branches. There's a hydrangea there as well in the lovely blue pot. You can just see the blue pot in the picture. Now the pot of the hydrangea and the hydrangea itself belongs to my daughter. So about 4 years ago she saw the hydrangea in a garden centre and really liked it, and so she asked for one from Grandma for her birthday. So Grandma got her the hydrangea plant, and then she was going to use one of my pots, I think, to plant it up. And I said, well, wouldn't you like to choose your own pot? So she took some of her birthday money and she chose that lovely pot, and she put like little glass stones on the top of the plant. It's doing really well there, but I should probably ask her whether she wants to bring it out and maybe have it on the patio so she can see it more regularly. Although, to be honest, when plants are happy, sometimes it's best to leave them. So round the side of my wood shelter there, my next door neighbour's got holly, and what I'm trying to do is cut some of the holly back, because I do not like it when all the holly leaves fall in my garden, and then of course you pick the holly up and get stabbed in the finger. So I was trimming some of that back. I was also trimming back some of the laurel, because you can see some of the laurel has gone right over all the wood that needs to be chopped up. And the good news was my husband chopped up quite a lot of wood yesterday. It is hard work with a chainsaw, and because of his back problem, you're at an angle, which is really quite hard. But I said to him, well, even if he just goes out and cuts up one log, if you did one log a day, you'd probably have that pile done in a couple of weeks. So he managed to get a few done, and he's filled up my wheelbarrow. So one of my jobs will be to put all the wood from the wheelbarrow into the wood store. I mean, I've got limited space there, really, haven't I? So this year I'll be burning last year's wood. So I've got plenty in store. So I cut back all the laurel. You can see on the left-hand side I've got a little hedgehog house there. Unfortunately, I bought that at a sale. I think I only bought it for £5, but it's only been in the garden for a short period of time and it's rotten. So it's obviously not made to go in the garden, so it can't really be a hedgehog house, can it? And then to the left of the tree, I can't quite see it because there's laurel over the top, but there is a hedgehog house which has been kind of constructed by the hedgehog. Now what I mean by that is I used to have a shelving unit there, and I decided to move the shelving unit because it was all got covered in pots, and I wanted to put it into my working area. So the idea is to have this bit a bit more neat rather than all this wood piled up. And then as I moved the shelving unit, I saw movement. I thought, oh, it's a rat's nest. And I looked again and it was a hedgehog's nest. I was so excited. I can't even explain how excited I was. I'm running in to get my daughter. Got little legs to come out. And so what we carefully did was we set up bricks to the left, bricks to the right, and then put a wooden shelf over the top and left the hedgehog where it was. And I know that something's still going backwards and forwards because every so often I see like a piece of litter in there. And it's something like that we don't eat, which I find really strange, that the creature, the hedgehog, has carried from somewhere in order to help its nest. Isn't it sad that wildlife use rubbish? It seems so sad, but so many of their homes have been destroyed, like the houses that were built near us. Honestly, the amount of hedgehogs and jackdaws, you'll probably hear the jackdaws, that's displaced. I saw so many hedgehogs on the roads because they just literally took all of the woodland area and everything and just wiped it in order to build the houses, where probably the roads are things like Hedgehog Lane and Jackdaw Road, and you think, well, you've just destroyed their homes and then called a name after them. Makes me feel sad, but what can you do? And then here I'm back sorting out a bit more detail of my pots and clearing all this. Now in a minute you'll probably see the nightmare that I had when I picked that mirror up, which is currently there, and the whole thing collapsed. I was thankful that the mirror didn't break. I really don't know how the mirror didn't break. I mean, it slid completely down onto the floor, and the wooden surround and the wooden back bit just collapsed, just fell away in my hands. So I've got that all that waste to get rid of. I found a few things in the shed that I want to put in the bin and clear out. But yeah, all the sort of the surround, and the mirror survived. Can't quite believe that. It fell on the floor but was still okay. So yeah, I put my new mirror up, which you've already seen. It does look much nicer. This one I got free. Can't think where I got it from now. But I got it free and just thought that looked quite nice in the garden. Oh, you hear it fall? And then all the surround all just fell to pieces. I looked and saw the mark where the mirror had left on the fence panels. Now these fence panels have been painted 3 times since we've had them. One time I was actually quite heavily pregnant and we got the fence panels in and out. I just don't know how I managed to do that. I really don't.
You should wear your gloves when you're in the garden, sweetheart. Don't like wearing gloves.
For me. I also dropped and broke my pot. Don't stand on the slugs.
What's that?
Can you shake this and bring the rubbish bin to me because you won't like to touch it?
Rubbish bin?
Yeah. I desperately need a water. Oh dear, the slugs. What do you mean?
The rubbish bin's full as well.
The rubbish bin is?
Yeah, to the brim.
Oh really?
Yeah, nothing will get in her.
Oh. Okay.
We'll let you half an hour.
Thank you. I thought I'd leave that on so you can hear the moment that I was saying about the bins being full, and I'm going to have to put all this, all these bits and pieces that all need to go in the rubbish bin. They're not going to fit in, and tomorrow I'm pretty certain it's recycling being collected, which means I've got a full bin for a week. I don't know what's in it. Oh yes, I do know. Oh bother, it's a container that has got a hole in it. I should have broken it down a bit more. Probably takes up half the bin. I forgot, and then we put rubbish over the top of it rather than breaking it down. Yeah, I was telling you about painting those fence panels, weren't I? They probably do need to all be painted again, but it's such a big job, it really is. And we went down the route of sliding the panels out, painting them both sides and sliding them back. And honestly, that took so long. I just was determined not to get stain onto the posts, onto the concrete posts. And then you'll see me sorting through my pots. So I did get a few gardening centre vouchers for my birthday, which was last month. So I might treat myself to another herb plant. So I might take you on a little trip to the garden centre and do a little video, and I'm going to choose I'll probably go for something variegated, which you have to be lucky at the garden centre because that sort of thing doesn't always come up. Also, I needed to cut back some more of my hawthorn, so you do see that I trim that. And then I need to clear up. And I was quite pleased because when I went into the shed, I spotted my big green garden waste bag that I've not used in ages, and because the brown bin, which is all the garden waste bin, is full, I decided to get that out. And by the end of the day, it was actually full to the brim. The good thing is about those bags that you can, if you leave it like for about a week, it drops down because it starts to decompose, doesn't it? So I will probably do that, to be honest. You can also see my sage there on the middle right of the picture. The sage is massive, really lovely, and the bees are all over it. So I went and got a new pot because one of my pots smashed when the mirror fell, unfortunately, which was disappointing. So I repotted that, and then I'm going to use part of the pot for an insect home and the other part I'm going to put in the bin. I'm sure people will be telling me to get rid of the whole thing, but at the moment I feel like it's got a purpose. Little insects like newts and snails and little things, they like those sorts of containers, so I'm gonna leave that. So you'll watch me sort that out, and then in a minute you'll see me clear up all my garden waste, so put it all in the big bag. And I do quite a lot of sorting in this area, so you'll be able to sort of see before and after really of all what I've done. And interestingly, you can see more and more light, which is good because I'm cutting back and getting a bit more light in the area, which will hopefully discourage the slugs as well. And then you'll see me fill that green bag, and then I move the camera to a slightly different angle, and the little stool I was going to put in the bin, I ended up sitting on it to do some weeding. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing my garden and what I've been up to. I do try to work with nature. I don't like using any sort of insecticides. Well, I don't use any insecticides, any pesticides in terms of weeding. That's me. And I actually find that weeding quite relaxing. I quite enjoy weeding. And also, if you get quite full beds, there's not really much space to see the weeds. Sometimes the full beds might mean that plants have expanded a bit too much and you can just cut them back. But a lot of the time, the weeds don't really have a chance because the plants are growing nicely. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my garden video, and thank you for watching the video. And if you've got any suggestions, any ideas of things that you'd like me to see in my garden, any parts of the garden that you'd like me to go through, any information about any particular plants, then please let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time for a talk about my 1930s garden. Bye!